Alright, soldiers, fall in and listen up. The bad guys are out there. They're dug in. You need to go over there and attack them. Kill them with your guns. Yes, sir. Alright, soldiers, go, go, go! I thought that might happen. Who's next? Alright, soldiers, you heard what I said already. The bad guys are over there. Go kill them. Go, go, go! Why didn't you go, go, go? Because I don't want to die? Really? Why not? What do you mean, why not? Well, like, you're a soldier. Soldiers are supposed to die. I feel like I shouldn't need to explain this to you. Are we supposed to die, though? Yeah. This is cannon fodder. That's literally what you're here for. Oh, right. Yeah. I forgot what game this was. I forgot I have literally no purpose other than to die. That's right. So, like, go do that. Go, go, go. Yeah, okay. Blech. Yeah, that's a shame. War is hell, man. Good graphics, though. When I was a little dweeb, probably around 12, after a lifetime of garbage tier garage sale computers, we finally got a good one. With a color monitor, speakers, enough horsepower to run Windows 3.1 and actual CD games, my buddy had a demo disc for a new game that he was raving about. Cannon Fodder. I'd never heard of it, and honestly, when he described it like a real-time strategy but with no base building, it did not sound appealing. But he eventually wore me down, and he gave me the demo disc, and I went home and I installed it and I booted it up and was instantly completely hooked. The demo wasn't that long, but I just kept playing it over and over. Years later, when old DOS games started showing up online and I was getting into DOS emulation, Cannon Fodder was one of the first things I grabbed. And I fell in love all over again. The one thing that I could never crack, though, was the difficulty. I always hit a wall. I couldn't make it very far, no matter what I tried. But that was kid me. This is adult me, with a fully developed adult brain, more or less. And the Dusty Game Society was counting on me. I was sure that I could finally beat this thing. I could not. Cannon Fodder was made by Sensible Software, the same studio behind the Amiga darling Sensible Soccer. It took about 2 years to develop, and it came out in 1993, and it was instantly a critical success. Amiga Action said it was brilliant in every way. It'll appeal to everyone, and it is sure to hit the #1 spot and stay there forever. Amiga Power called it Game of the Year, and the reviewer said, "Playing this game is now more important to me than eating, sleeping, or any other bodily function." It was so popular it got ported everywhere. Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo, 3DO, DOS, and even the Game Boy Color, which got a surprisingly competent version. The Amiga original is the definitive version, obviously, but the DOS port holds up. The 16-bit console versions get the job done, but the Game Boy Color version is genuinely impressive. Great graphics, full voice samples somehow crammed into the cartridge, and the D-pad cursor actually works. I'd argue it actually controls better than the other console versions. It's also my favorite game on the Game Boy Color, just saying. For this month, though, I played the Genesis version. I wanted the fancier version with the nice graphics for, to make the video look good. And also, I wanted the console controls since I was playing on a handheld. But mostly, I wanted to finally conquer the game that humbled me as a child. I didn't, though. Not even close. The controls were fine. I just suck. There was a sequel to this game as well, Cannon Fodder 2, which apparently is even more brutally difficult. And there's a newer Cannon Fodder 3 that I don't know anything about. I bought it expecting to move on to it after I beat the first and the second, but that didn't happen. The story of the game is that there's a war. That's it. That's the entire narrative. The game's motto is, "War has never been so fun," which is a pretty bold statement for a game that constantly reminds you that war means a lot of dead people. You have a limited pool of recruits, they all look identical, but they all have names. So when a guy survives a bunch of missions, you start recognizing him. And then when he gets killed, he's gone forever. New recruits replace the dead ones, and the gravestones slowly pile up between missions. It's weirdly dark, but the kind of bright cartoony vibe and the comically brutal deaths keep it lighthearted. The gameplay is crazy simple. You got a cursor and 2 buttons. One button moves, the other button shoots. You can shoot in any direction though, so it ends up feeling kinda halfway between an action game and a strategy game. You've also got some items, and pressing both buttons at once lets you throw grenades or fire RPGs. You can also split your soldier into groups too, so technically you can run multiple squads or even control individual dudes. The original game was meant to be played with a mouse, but on the consoles you use the D-pad to move the cursor around. And while poking through the emulator settings, I discovered something that deeply upset me by existing without my knowledge. The Genesis had a mouse. Apparently, Cannon Fodder was one of the few games that supported it, so for a while, I used a Bluetooth mouse mapped as a Genesis mouse, and honestly, it felt great. It basically turned it back into a proper PC game. One of the struggles is that the pathfinding is pretty rough. Your little dummies mostly walk in a straight line towards wherever you click, and if a tree gets in the way, then they just stand there like idiots. The gameplay is primitive, but it is absolutely the best part. It feels tight and weirdly modern in a way that lots of games didn't from back then. And I kind of realize now why I liked this so much as a kid. And it's the same reason that I loved playing it again this month. It just feels really good to play. There's a good variety in the levels too. Some maps are big and open, some are tight and maze-like, some missions are run and gun action, while others force you to slow down and be tactful. There are pits, spike traps, wandering natives with their little bums wiggling in the breeze, and their little straw huts, enemy buildings, barracks that spawn bad guys, and enemy like bunkers and little fences and stuff blocking off parts of the map. A lot of the later levels start feeling almost puzzle-like in how you need to approach them. Like if you don't plan ahead, you're gonna quickly end up with a squad of dead pixel soldiers bleeding their pixel blood all over the place. Each level has different objectives too. Sometimes you gotta destroy all the buildings, sometimes you just gotta wipe out all the enemies, sometimes you just gotta get to a certain spot and do a thing or whatever. The mechanics of the game stay the same, but the missions still feel different. You also get vehicles in some missions. There's a little jeep with a mounted gun, tanks, and even helicopters. Some missions are built entirely around them and feel almost like whole different games. Until you die. Then it just feels like cannon fodder still. Speaking of dying, the difficulty is a thing. It actually starts out pretty easy. You got a small squad of soldiers and you run around the map shooting the bad guys and tossing grenades at buildings. It lulls you into a false sense of not sucking. And then the difficulty starts ramping up, and then it just keeps on ramping, and it never stops. For the middle chunk of the game, you're mostly going to be thinking things like, oh, okay, I messed that up, and I need to be more careful next time. Or like, there must be some clever way to approach this stage to conquer it. But by the end of the game, you'll just be screaming at the screen about how unfair everything is, and how it feels completely impossible to get past some of these missions. When I first started playing this month, I thought I could master it with my 2026 40-something-year-old gamer brain. But nope, I didn't beat it. Not even close. Some of the later levels just completely decimated my recruitment pool, and I totally failed the campaign. And that happened multiple times. Luckily, the Genesis version uses a password system, so I could jump back to where I was on a new run. But unfortunately, that's when I discovered that the stages after the ones that I couldn't beat were even worse. I tried over and over again before eventually resorting to RetroArts cheats just to get through some of the worst missions, and even then, it felt brutal. Like I'd grind out a single mission over and over again for an entire night, and then I'd be like, okay, I can't get past this, I'm just gonna skip it, and I did, and the next mission was the same thing or worse. A lot of the difficulty comes from these rocket launching soldier jerks. They have a huge range. The moment they appear on screen, they'll fire a rocket that can wipe out your entire squad instantly. Maybe I'm just a bad gamer, but this game pushed me right to the breaking point. And you know what? I had the time of my life. I freaking loved it. I am fine with sucking at games as long as the games are fun and good. And this is that. It's so fun. It would be nice if after a whole month of brutal failure, I had actually managed to beat it. But maybe that's the moral of the game. You know, war is hell. It never ends well. Maybe I learned the lesson. The art is fantastic. The pixel work is clean, colorful, and packed with personality. The little soldiers are simple but super expressive, and their little animations give the whole battlefield this lively, chaotic feel. Explosions, gunfire, and destruction all have really satisfying effects that makes every little skirmish fight feel punchy and dramatic. And the maps are especially impressive, with lovely detailed pixel art that gives the game a lot of charm despite all the tiny men constantly exploding into pixel jam. Despite hating the game at many points because of how pathetic it made me feel, I had a blast playing this, and I intend to play it again, often. The controls are tight, the missions are varied, and it has that dangerous just one more try energy that keeps you coming back even after the game has completely humiliated you. Again, when things go wrong and a single rocket erases your entire squad in the first 10 seconds of a map, you sit there staring at the screen just baffled at how you could possibly get past this stage. But it is something you can overcome. You can figure out these things and you can get better at it. And when things go right, you feel like a tactical genius. And that is the kind of reward that only a tough as nails game can give you. I don't know if I'll ever be able to beat Cannon Fodder, but that won't stop me from loving it. It still feels unique today, sitting in this weird little space between action game and strategy game that not many other games really touch. If you've never played it, it is absolutely worth checking out. Just be prepared to lose a lot of soldiers along with your dignity. But that's just one dweeb's opinion, and the Dusty Game Society isn't a one dweeb show, so let's hear what the other DGS members had to say about Cannon Fodder, shall we? Holly the Tired Fox felt like it was good but not great, and she gave it a chocolate Easter bunny out of 10. Tasty but hollow in the middle and not great when you eat the whole dang thing at once. Replay nearly dropped Cannon Fodder thanks to the brutal difficulty and fiddly controls, but stuck with it for the sake of the Dusty Game Society. He ended up enjoying it as a quick few minutes between things game, and in the end, he's glad he gave it a shot, especially after naming the enemy army after his employer. That's fun. I like that a lot. Zensible returned to Cannon Fodder with strong Amiga nostalgia. Unfortunately, he also rediscovered why he never got very far as a kid. How the game is brutally difficult and often expects you to die, memorize the map, and try again. With the help of save states, he finally finished it, but his final take is that while Cannon Fodder was an important Amiga classic, today it feels more historically interesting than truly great. Mama Coco tried Cannon Fodder briefly on the SNES and the Game Boy Color, decided it was too hard for his humble brain, and respectfully bowed out before dishonoring his entire family lineage any further. The Shibushi really wanted to like Cannon Fodder after trying it across several systems, but the RNG gunfire, off-screen rockets, and clunky controls kept the game from clicking. They felt the game might have been much more enjoyable with twin-stick style controls that gave players better movement and aiming control, but was still glad they tried it to see what it was about. Yibs bounced between several versions of Cannon Fodder before settling on the Game Boy Color version, which proved successful but addictive enough to keep restarting the campaign over and over in true, no save states, survive until everyone dies fashion. After many heroic attempts, they pushed all the way to mission 21 before the final soldier met an unfortunate end. And they wrote a fun story to commemorate the experience. How cool is that? Polyboy390 played the Super Nintendo version and had a great time, hasn't beaten it yet but will return to it until they do. Thanks for playing, buddy. Lunar Hades tried the 3DO version of Cannon Fodder and tapped out around mission 6, finding a little bit of charm in its goofy war vibe but never really connecting with the gameplay. Even so, they're glad they gave it a shot and reminded us that in the Dusty Game Society sometimes the real victory is just simply trying and listening to everyone else's battle stories. And heck yeah. I couldn't agree more with that. Disquieted Collector tried the Game Boy Color version and ended up getting unexpectedly sucked in for a few hours. It didn't spark a full completion run, but it's now on the list of games they'll happily boot up now and then when there's time to kill. Remy played the Game Boy Color version and enjoyed the missions and the charming little dudes exploding other dudes, but eventually the repetition set in again just like it did back in the PC days. After reaching level 11, they decided that was enough Battlefield for one lifetime, but they can totally see why other players might enjoy pushing through the challenge. Wooward was impressed by what the Game Boy Color pulled off with Cannon Fodder, enjoying the gameplay and sound while getting repeatedly demolished by the difficulty. They're still stuck at around mission 7, but plan to keep chipping away at it and exploring more Game Boy Color gems. Pure Joysticks is about halfway through Cannon Fodder and having a great time with it, enjoying the simple gameplay loop, the dark humor, and the Game Boy Color version's chunky, easy-to-see sprites. The difficulty ramps up fast, but playing it in short bursts with a few sacrificial troops in the grinder keeps it fun. Carrick discovered that Cannon Fodder mostly made them appreciate modern RTS controls, and how much better a mouse works for games like this. Brend the Cow went into Cannon Fodder expecting a quirky action strategy game and instead discovered what felt like a tiny, brutal Souls-like that kept punishing him and somehow convincing him to try again anyways. After several playthroughs and a growing appreciation for the snappy Game Boy Color controls and silly voice clips, he found himself genuinely enjoying the struggle and gave it a 7.5 out of 10. Groove It BB enjoyed the Game Boy Color version and found it perfect for quick, brainless pick-up-and-play sessions. Final verdict, a solid 7 out of 10. Serious Rain delivered a full military debrief explaining that Cannon Fodder defeated them in glorious battle, largely due to the brutal difficulty and the self-imposed Saveless Private Ryan challenge. Final verdict, honorable failure, but a very memorable one. Strad von Zarovich delivered a delightfully gothic battlefield report after tackling the Game Boy Color version without save states, embracing the endless cycle of soldiers rising, dying, and filling the graveyard. He appreciated the clean visuals and the simple little soldier management metagame, but found the brutal difficulty, repetition, and harsh Game Boy Color audio kept it from greatness. Final decree from Castle Ravenloft is a respectable 6.5 out of 10, though perhaps maybe it's best played between brooding monologues and the occasional Burgomaster visit. Super Mummyo OS, a brand new DGS recruit, gave Cannon Fodder a try but struggled with the controls and brutal difficulty before bowing out around Mission 5. The pixel art was charming, but the shooting wasn't their thing, so they're heading back to what they do best, launching Koopa shells. John Seeking gave the DOS version a shot but got completely wrecked by flying shack roofs around Mission 5. After trying a few versions, he discovered the Game Boy Color port is actually fantastic, with great controls and a friendlier system that drops in replacement soldiers instead of forcing constant restarts. His verdict, if Cannon Fodder isn't clicking for you, the Game Boy Color version might be the one to try. And that's it. That's what we think of Cannon Fodder. Despite being critically praised when it was released, it seems like the Dusty Game Society has mixed opinions. But hey, that's why we do this. Not every game is for every dweeb. And hearing different takes on the same game from all the DGS members puts it all in perspective. The Dusty Game Society is a perk that I offer to the patrons of TechDweeb. Each month we play the same game, talk about it all month long, or cry about how hard it is. Kind of like a book club for retro games, or maybe more like a support group for retro game trauma survivors. If you're interested in supporting everything I do here on this channel, and also joining in with the Dusty Game Society, there's a link in the thingy below. That's it, soldier. That's all you get. Now either go home and cry to your mommy, or get out there and die already. Yes, sir. Mom. Mom. Stay dusty, soldier.